Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hyrule Chronicles, the Legend of Zelda D&D campaign, episode 90. It's only struck me how big that number is now.
That's a big number.
It's a big number.
And it's supposed to get bigger.
Yeah. I am Articulate T, the Game Master, and with me, as always, I have Renji Vox, being played by another lad.
That is me. Hello.
Yeah. I have Kai Kuana, played by Avrdal.
Hello.
I have Zayden Shari, being played by Robo Pirate.
Hello.
And I have Max, being played by Keystruth.
Hi.
So, friends, what happened last time?
Last time, Feinstein decided to go spelunking into the depths of Blackmore Castle to gather information on the Goma infestation and to see if they could gather anything on the people or different things that might have happened after the vision for future use. Afterwards, we went from there to the Hylia research station so that way Dr. Marshall could visit his friend, the doctor at the lake, whose name I can't remember for some reason. I just remember him because he's stooped and he's got his big old glasses, or he's got it, in some instances, the big old glasses and a penchant for eyeball frogs. And we figured out that he had recently acquired an assistant that fit our description under the name of Zelda, which made Kai go, for a moment before giving Max a history lesson in Goron. After a little bit of talking and verification that they were out, that she was out on the island in the middle of the lake, we used our folding boat for the first time and went down into the island where we met Princess Sophidia before having a conversation and being attacked by Goma-infested Zora, which were handily dispatched, though Renji, at least for a brief moment, was infected by one.
Only for a brief moment.
Mm-hmm. After getting things cleaned up, I believe we were going to head our way back up towards the research station and then move from there to eventually go to the Lost Woods and get the thing that Sphitio was talking about and totally not find the Queen Goma.
Yeah. So we rejoin our heroes as they have returned to the research station itself. I can't remember exactly what time of day it was. I want to say it's fairly
Mid
late.
to late afternoon.
Yeah. So by the time you get back, it's getting to about late afternoon, early evening sort of time frame. And it's here where your collective group make your way off the pontoons and up the steps towards the research station. As you're going, Sophitia quietly says, "Now, I need to remind you that discretion is the better part of valor. If we can keep my identity rather close to the chest until such a time as things are sorted, even between Dr. Windle and Dr. Marshall, it would be better if as few people knew who I was and where I was."
Understood?
We didn't tell Dr. Marshall that we were looking for the princess, right? We just said we were looking for someone of her description.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Okay.
But yeah, with that.
Renji is suppressing the urge to, say to the princess, we're going to keep your secret probably better than you are, Zelda.
Well, perhaps next
tempted.
time you are Well,
These
I was going to
days.
say, are you suppressing it? Yeah. Oh dear.
Apparently the music's a bit hot.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. No worries.
That is on my side.
There we go.
Which is also fair. That also works.
There we go. Okay. I was going to say it is a bit loud. At least on my end it was. Okay. So, you ascend the steps and eventually find your way back to the building itself. Sophitia doesn't bother knocking. She works here now, so it's a case of just opening the door and heading inside.
Makes sense.
And as she enters, Marshall and Wendell look up, and Wendell goes, "Oh, Zelda, good to see you again. Please come on in. I see you've met our guests." And Dr. Marshall just kind of like gives a kind of an appraising nod. Sophitia says, "Well, it's a good thing that they arrived. There was a slight complication. It seems some of the more aquatic denizens of Lake Hylia have also succumbed to the illness."
Is that when Max drags the body of the one
I was gonna
we brought
say.
with behind them?
Just like Max and Kai carry forward
Yeah.
the body.
Oh dear.
Let's put this.
Marshall just kind of like narrows his eyes and kind of grimaces a bit. Wendell's eyes light up and he's like, "Oh, bully, excellent. This way," and he just guides you over to a nearby table and gestures you to put the body on there.
Alright.
Marshall looks over and says, This infestation is spreading rather quickly. I would have hoped that, given it is a fungal pollen type creature, that it might not have affected those that dwell underwater, but I guess I am mistaken.
They come on land sometimes, right?
I suppose so. And he just kind of watches as you place the River Zora on the table. Wendell kind of looks over everything and says, "Well, this is a fantastic specimen. With this much of a sample, we might be able to make something of a vaccine rather quickly." And Marshall just kind of nods a bit and looks over and says, "Well, that is a rather beneficial turn of events, I suppose. I trust you are all unharmed."
I got better.
Max has not mentioned the minor burns he got. And continues not to.
He just kind of like, Marshall gives something of an appraising look over each and every one of you, and just kind of gives a nod. Whether or not he noticed anything and is just refusing to bring it up is a different matter. Sophitia, or in this guy's Zelda, looks over to the two doctors and says, "I've tried my best to analyze a theory of mine. It seems that the tree on the island has originated from quite possibly the Lost Woods, and I mean the forestry there is enchanted. Perhaps some kind of magic is preventing it from being affected by the Goma parasite itself." Marshall just kind of raises the brow and says, "That would make... No. Lost Woods are an abundant source of life. It would be like a meal to the Goma, at least from what I can tell from Wendell's explanations." And Wendell's like, yes. If there is one place within all of Hyrule that they are likely to be, it would be there. Unlike a normal fungal aspect that requires darkness and moisture, they require an actual living substance to play as a host. And, well, it is the most verdant and lush forest that has ever existed on this world, at least as far as we can tell. It would be odd for it to have trouble dwelling there. And
Well,
Safiti,
Thinking about it, you've got people that have gone in and come out, right? There's so many Goma there. Why aren't they infected when they come back out?
well,
Are there many Goma?
Well, they said the infestation at the Lake Hylia settlement was pretty bad, right?
yeah.
So presumably there's some there.
I specifically am talking. Is there any awareness of a large contingency of Goma living in Lost Woods?
But that was Sophitia's theory, is that it's not because there might be something magical protecting it.
Right, that's
and the other
theory.
doctors are like, well, no, there's lots of life there. And Kai's just like, well, if there's so much life there, why don't people come out infected?
Exactly. So, is that a assumption or is that a statement of fact?
Feel free to make some nature checks to see if something comes to mind.
I'm not very good at it. 9.
Max is still too busy trying to figure out what the word vaccine means.
Oh yeah, and whether or not this is a vaccine or a cure that people are talking about.
6.
Okay, let's see.
11.
You're on 11. Let's see if Mara knows something. Mara does know something. That's a natural 20.
Very nice.
Smart.
Smarter.
Mara
To be
kind
fair,
of
she
like...
is the book one.
Yeah.
True.
Mara kind of folds her arms and then taps the side of her cheek with a finger and says, "The Last Woods are a interesting place. The magical enchantment around it, as far as people can tell, encourages those who enter to get lost. Either they get turned around and pointed back outside, or they get lost inside forever until they inevitably die. It's possible that the reason why people who are going to the Lost Woods are rarely getting infected, maybe it's because they're not venturing too far to where Goma would be, if there are Goma in the Lost Woods at all. Maybe the forest is trying to protect them, or maybe it's just a matter of coincidence. Of course, at which point Marshall picks this up and says that would possibly explain why those who are venturing to the Lost Woods to pick up lumber, perchance, have not been infected, at least of a gratuitous degree. But Goma is so very rarely contended with. This is the first of a large-scale infestation that we have encountered in recorded history. It's entirely possible that one or two individuals were enough to become infected, and because it spreads by spore or by bite, it would be understandable for such a small settlement to then be quickly overrun. But that still dwells on whether or not the actual source of it lies within the Lost Woods. And Sophitia just kind of says, "My theory perhaps is that the Goma, being instinctive creatures, are trying, but not succeeding. Or perhaps..." She kind of pauses a moment, and then looks to Wendell and says, "You said that Goma operate on something of a hive mind, correct?" And Wendell's like, yes, they... It's hard to say whether or not it's strictly a psionic field, or perhaps a form of pheromone or radio wave or something, some kind of vibration that allows them to understand and communicate from great distances. But In a rather unsettling factor, the Goma are capable of understanding and knowing what is going on around them from any, I guess, node that could be meters, perhaps miles away from each other, and functioning like a chain.
I'm curious about those radio waves you mentioned.
Well, it's something of he kind of like goes goes off on like a very brief description of electromagnetic frequency and all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, Sophitia just kind of turns to the rest and quietly says, "What if this collective hive mind has provided whatever is in charge of this collection of Goma to gain some form of sapience? Maybe it's intelligent enough, not necessarily to try and utilize the Lost Woods as a form of food source, but rather as an elaborate form of cover."
Cover for what?
Well, if you were trying not to be found and you needed a bunch of plant life around you to sustain you, and you could hide in the Lost Woods, Renji, would you?
Possibly,
Every
yes.
time I've heard this place mentioned, people say it's cursed.
Then the question remains, do we want to venture inside? Because personally it doesn't really interest me. But if that's what's necessary, or do we need to go to the Hylian settlement first?
How do we get to the Lost Woods from here?
South.
Yeah.
See trees down there.
Yeah. Both Sophitia and I imagine Zayden could point in the direction that the Lost Woods are directly south from Lake Hylia, and in fact, what I will do is I will...
Map reveal.
Oh, no, that's
unreveal.
map conceal.
Right, bud?
There you go.
Hello,
Look
tree.
at that.
The Lost Woods encompass more or less a unnervingly large portion of southern Hyrule. And they kind of stop here at Lake Hylia and don't venture too further forward. Yeah. But
Renji is obviously not happy about the prospect of going into the Lost Woods. I personally, as Nether, am. Also, I will mention to the doctors here that if they are interested in radio waves, they might want to contact a certain doctor in Castletown and a Goron in Goron City for their invention.
Dr. Wendell seems very, very excited about that, but Marshall is just kind of focusing on the task at hand and says, Right, well, the core issue that we're facing at the moment in regards to generating some form of vaccine is supply of appropriate material. However, for your efforts at the castle that we just ventured from, as well as the specimen that we've just found here, there could be enough to find some way to counteract the parasitic infection.
In already infected people?
That's a bit more of a difficulty. If they are infected, they would have to be... He seems to be struggling a lot to kind of explain. But at which point Sophitia cuts in and says, if we were going to administer it, it's going to have to be early within the life cycle. The problem with the Goma is the fact that the parasite, when it is introduced into the body, latches on and immediately grows. To the point where even if we were to disable the parasite itself, the way that it intrudes on a person's physiology might result in it being fatal.
Hmm. That is not good news.
A vaccine would help. Go ahead.
If we were to find whatever the main brain of this thing is or whatever, and destroy it, would that make the infection less bad?
Marshall kind of thinks a bit, and then Wendell cuts in and says, "Well, yes and no. It wouldn't stop people from the Goma immediately progressing as a living creature, but without a central coordinating node within this hive mind network, it would cause the Goma that already exist to be disorganized. It would slow infection rates because they wouldn't know what to do with themselves, and it would also slow infection rates because what the parasite is growing into has nothing truly solid to latch onto. It would be unable to really progress into any core direction. It would help, in short, but it's not a immediate solution to the problem."
Is there a dice roll or anything that we can use to enforce video game logic? So that if we defeat the end boss, then the end boss and everything else disappears and only like a heart container remains.
Give
Gets the
him-
heart container.
The person who defeats the boss.
Yeah.
Well, we have to
please?
carry the heart container.
Gary?
We have to take the heart container and find a big evil thing that's probably sleeping and shove it inside for the hero to get later.
What?
We don't get it.
No! No!
But if we're killing a boss, it's already in a big evil thing.
Take it out of one boss, put it into another boss.
In a slightly lower level boss. So
I
it's
do
ready
not
for
want
hero.
to be the outsorcerer's apprentice. That is an actual book title, by the way. I have it in my bookcase. It is very
Nice.
funny.
That's
Next
good.
doesn't need an apprentice.
Okay. If you want, you can roll for me a combined medicine and nature check.
A combined medicine and
Yeah,
nature
so roll
check.
roll medicine, then roll nature.
That's
Okay.
an average of 10.
22 and then 13.
Okay.
Is this an everyone roll or?
Those who
Oh.
want to.
16
Oh,
and
yeah.
7.
Let's
or
see what
18.
I get. 9 and 2.
Wow.
Max still doesn't know what a vaccine is.
Okay. Right, so, Kai, you would probably get this followed immediately by Zayden. They'll probably get it from two different angles. The general gist of it is as such. Defeating whatever is considered the queen of this hive will ultimately put a stop to more Goma being spread. There will still be Goma. There will be lava, and there will be host bodies that can be violent if they are fully transformed and can bite people to cause more of a spread. But if you consider like the step before, have you seen those videos? They come up a lot. They've come up a lot on my timeline for some silly reason recently. But have you seen videos of ants being in a death spiral? Where they kind of just are running around in circles around a rock because they've lost themselves, and they'll just keep going until they all die.
I haven't seen a video of it, but yes.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
That-
pheromone thing.
that's more or less what you think will probably happen. So you would defeat Goma Queen or Goma leader.
Big Goma.
Big Goma, big eyeball. You would defeat that, and that would take away the coordinating influence of the Goma, at which point whatever remains have no idea where to go, what to do, or why, at which point they may just stumble around until they starve to death because they have nothing better to do. So it would then, after say a week or so, reduce the number of active Goma in the area. And then all you've got left are those that have just barely stuck around, and then eventually, maybe, depending on how well the threat is contained, that might lead to another Goma becoming a Goma leader of that variety, which would then be another problem, but at the very least the immediate problem will have been solved in a way.
We might have a vaccine ready by then for
Yeah.
people to have, so they might have defenses against it.
Yes.
Very well done squaring that, or rounding that square peg with like parasitic queen Goma and Twilight Arachnid Armagoma and stuff, so.
Well, it's like every time Goma turns up in Zelda, I just feel like it is the reason why I made it specifically a parasite is that
He's just inconsistent.
it's always a cyclopean monstrosity, but it's always in a different body somehow, some way, and it just made sense to me that it would be like a living parasite that takes the host body of something bigger and stronger than itself.
Makes sense.
But yeah. So that's the general understanding of it at the moment. Is like defeating Goma leader will demonstrably improve the situation. It won't 100% solve it, but it's better than leaving it be. Sophitia would say that she would like it defeated because it does have an immediate beneficial impact on the situation. Marshall would agree that it would be a good idea to take care of it because then it means treating people who are currently infected and not too far gone would be much easier, because then they don't have to contend with the hive mind while trying to treat patients. Windle doesn't really mind either way, but if you're going to go and kill something of that size, he would like a sample if you could bring it back.
We'll ask him for a sample jar then.
He will happily provide you with a sample jar. He gives you several sizes. Which size would you like?
I'll just open the bag of holding and tell him to give me whatever.
Okay, he'll give you a big one, a medium one, and a small one.
Excellent. Big sample jar.
Okay. Sophie.
I'll also ask.
No? Okay.
I'll ask him to give some indication of what will be a good sample.
He kind of shrugs and says, anything you can feasibly fit in the jar, I suppose.
Okay.
I think it's getting pretty close to evening right now.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about everyone else, and I know the settlement was brought up, and might be a good idea to stop there anyway, because I don't feel like walking through a possibly cursed forest in the middle of the night.
Oh no, it is very cursed.
I'm gonna have to take your word for it. I've been trying not to look at you this entire time.
Did I do something?
You mentioned last session, or Zayden mentioned that he was somewhat familiar and could get through the woods beforehand. And so anytime that we're just talking about the last woods, Kai's like, he didn't say something for a reason. I don't want to draw attention to him.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Mara at this point would say, well, I'm up for either. We could either rest here, or we could head to the Hylia settlement and rest there, or we could power on to the edge of the woods and rest at the edge of the woods. It's entirely up to all of you.
Well, I think we should rest before going into the woods at least. So.
That's fair.
Let's see what the state of things is at Hylia.
Okay.
Good idea.
All right. So you make your way out after clearing everything up. Sophitia wisely elects to remain at the research station, and as you kind of collect everything up, Dr. Marcher will get his things and explain to Dr. Windle that he will return to Masro briefly just to check in and then come back to ensure that that they can get working on a vaccine, and also he also wants to check in on the Hylia settlement to see how it's doing. Last time he was there, he admits that it wasn't looking good. But as you Windle's like, oh, it's fine. I have work to be done anyway, and he's already like rooting through his drawers for whatever tools or equipment he needs to examine the sample that you have brought in. So Dr. Marshall will put on his robe again, pick up his bag, and will join you on your journey to the Hylia settlement. By the time you get there, it is the sun is beginning to descend past the horizon, and you enter into a very small fishing village that runs along a single road, at least from the looks of it.
When we get closer, I think before we get into eye shots of like any from the town in general, or at least let's say half an hour before we arrive at the town, I want to, with mentioning this to the rest of the party, go invisible, because I am wearing a cloak and an armor set with the Sheikah eye on it.
Okay.
Also, was there a gossip stone between the research station and the Hylia settlement?
I think Masro mentioned that there was a gossip station between Hylia and Hylia settlement and Masro.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Then disregard that. I would like to be invisible when we arrive at the settlement.
Okay. So, as you kind of crest the hill and follow as you follow the shoreline of Lake Hylia and catch sight of the Hylia settlement, you go invisible, and head into town. Even for an evening at this time, it is deathly quiet. You can only hear like the footsteps of a couple of people, and the gentle lapping of waves on shore and the clunking of wooden boats against pontoons. As you venture further in, you can see that there aren't even any guards on duty for the most part. There's like one, just a standard individual wielding a spear in some chainmail armor, just kind of like looking down one direction along the road, looking down the other one. He seems very tired. On the docks, you can see a pair of Hylians who are dressed in very thick attire, like overalls, big heavy rubber gloves, and thick leather jackets and stuff, just kind of going through various equipment as they ensure it's all there. There are a number of the buildings that are around have lights on in the windows, but one thing that does catch your eye almost immediately is the sheer number of doors that have a red painted X on each one.
Hmm.
Dr. Marshall just kind of like heaves a bit of a sigh and says, I do hate how quiet it is.
Right. Okay. Do you know what the X's are about there, Doctor?
Each one is an infected household.
Okay. How many households are there?
Along the main road, at a glance, you can count about 12 or 13. There are probably more behind those houses that kind of stretch further out from the road itself. A good half of them that you can see are have the X on the door.
Oh, darn. I cannot cure disease. Okay.
Sadly not. Although, let me have a look at my rules for Goma infection and see how things are with that one. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. From what you can see, like, the key problem with this at the moment is the fact that for like the best way that you could have helped them with your capabilities would have been almost pretty much immediately after they were infected, like you did with Renji. It was the if they've been infected for longer than that, then it would require something a bit more potent. Although you would be able to at least offer them triage in order to halt the infection, but then that would be you and Dr. Marshall against, from what you can see right now, like 6 or 7 patients at the same time all the way down the street, and that's assuming that it's one patient per household. Yeah. One of the
Do I think, given the type of magic that I've seen Zayden use, that Zayden could do it with lesser restoration on some of the harsher infections?
give me a medicine check.
Sure. Nope. 22.
You believe it might require more than that.
Okay.
You
I'm
believe
not
it
gonna-
might? Yeah, it might require a greater restoration in order to.
Greater restoration costs money. I'm not gonna suggest that.
Plus diamond dust worth at least 100 gold pieces. Of which I have 3.
With a 22, I can tell you, like, the curing of the Goma parasite paragraph I've got. So I've got here, curing a Goma parasite is often best performed early. A DC 15 wisdom medicine check can save the patient and stop progression should treatment be applied within 1 minute of infection, as the parasite is removed before it can take root. After this point, however, the only recourse is to purge the parasite. A greater restoration spell or greater magics can remove the parasite so long as the creature has not failed their regular constitution saves more than 4 times. Doing this removes almost all the effects described above, with the exception of the loss to their intelligence score, which will recover 1 point every long rest thereafter. Similarly, a poultice of rare materials from across the kingdom can be made at the GM's discretion. If the creature has failed their constitution save 5 or more times, a greater restoration will stop the disease from progressing, but removing the effects will require extensive care and downtime, with 1 week of rest removing the latest symptoms. A wish spell can restore a creature to full health.
Oof.
Yeah,
That's
Goma
nasty.
parasites are mean.
Okay. Was it like this when you? No, it would have been more than a minute. Okay.
As you're kind of like looking about, one of the fishermen comes up, just kind of like tromps over, thump, 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 and says, "Excuse me, can we help you at all? It's kind of late."
Yeah, sorry about the late hour there. We were just giving Dr. Wendell a bit of a hand over at the research station, and he sent us this way with Dr. Martlier to take a look around to see if there was anything that could be done before we head up on our way. Given that it is the late hour, we were looking to see if it would be all right to find a place to sleep here, but wasn't quite certain how quickly things have progressed.
Oh, well, yeah. Oi, Trev! And he looks over his shoulder at the other the fisherman, and the other guy's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "I'm just gonna talk with these fine folk of the Rusted Hook. Are you okay to finish up?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And the fisherman goes, "Oh, well, if you follow me, there is an inn in town. It's not exactly super fancy, but by all means, come along. We'll have a chat." And he'll lead you to a small inn, a 2-story building which seems to be a little bit ramshackle, called the Rusted Hook. As you enter in, there is a little foss behind the bar. This big fella, broad shoulders, hunched over. He's just kind of like wiping a glass down. And he looks up and sees you. He doesn't say anything. He just kind of gives you a curt nod as you all enter, and the fisherman responds in kind, and he goes back to cleaning his glass. And the fisherman will guide you over to a table as he takes off of his knitted beanie hat and just kind of like collapses in a chair around this big wooden table. The actual inn itself, the dining area, looks empty. It is just you in this area here and the barman. He kind of leans on the table and says, "So you want to have a look around? If you're speaking to Wendell, then I'm guessing that you must be looking into this illness that's been going around here."
Yep, at least for yeah, we figured that it would be our and I will take a look at Renji because Renji's like, I don't want to go to the Lost Woods.
Renji
We
is still
figured
invisible, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
it's been an hour. Oh shoot.
I will say, if I haven't spotted anyone wearing a cloak of the Sovereign Hand, I would have attempted to reappear unseen when one of the guards brings us to the Rusted Hook.
Give me a perception check.
A perception check. Okay. There we go. Let's see if I can roll higher than a 10 today. No, that's a 2 plus 10.
Wow. It's a good thing it's not in a fight, I will admit. Yeah, you don't believe you see any symbols of the Sovereign Hand.
Then I would have surreptitiously tried to drop my invisibility while our group is being ferried to the inn.
So yeah, as you kind of like, he doesn't notice you at all as you kind of just join the group. He looks about as tired as the guard down the road is. But he kind of just nods as yeah, he does introduce himself as Staula. Staula. It's not. He admits it's not the greatest name, but he gets by with it.
Oh, that's sad. Well, nobody should apologize for their name.
But yeah, Stoller just kind of like leans on the table and says, well, happened about a week ago, I suppose. At least that's when people started noticing. There's occasionally we get people going back and forth from the Lost Woods, right? Yeah, I know we've been told numerous times by people going in and out that you shouldn't really go anywhere near it, but it's the closest set of trees. There's not really many trees around here, and we need our lumber for the boats and fishing equipment because that is our main export after all. But well, couple times people would go and they've come back, and other times some would go and then some others wouldn't come back because they've gone in too far. That doesn't really happen though. You get just people who start working the logging jobs and they get too curious and they go too far in, and then that's just it. But we get a couple folks come back in, and one of them's got their arm in a sling. Says that he's been bitten by something. He says it's a bat or a keese or a smaller skulltiller sort of thing. Not something that you'd expect would be too much of a problem, right? It's like just a nuisance, I suppose. If it was something like a wolf or a bear or something, then that would be a bit of a problem. We'd have to change our plans, maybe have an armed escort, but this was just like a rodent or something. Anyways, he falls ill, and we think it's just something about the thing that bit him. We didn't think much of it. He had a high fever. He said he was hearing things, that sort of thing. And then one day he up and bites the person taking care of him.
And he hasn't done that before.
Oh no.
Just checking.
Yeah, it's I mean, when he did it, he was like, after he was kind of pushed away from, like, this is all second-hand information, mind. I never really met the bloke, but he had when he was pushed away, maybe like the collision with the opposite wall had knocked it back into his senses. He had no idea that he bit someone else, and this person was understandably quite upset and stopped taking care of him. And then he started experiencing the same symptoms as well, and so on and so forth. More people from the logging company come back having been bitten by something small and inconsequential. And after the second time, admittedly, we started getting a bit cautious. He kind of like like he pulls at like the sleeve of the jacket he's wearing, and some of this stuff imported in from Sarkosa, very, very expensive stuff. But this is the kind of material that people use when dealing with Georgs. I mean, with a Georg, it's not going to do much. It's fucking leather, isn't it? But it's thicker than your standard cloth. not as breathable, but it's protective. And it's an all-over cover thing. People started going doing logging jobs with that. They'd come back with less wood, of course, because wearing something so heavy, doing such a exhausting job is, well, it's going to cut into your productivity, right? And then the Rivazora turned up. One or two of them, and it's not like we've had trouble with them before. They're a bit testy in some cases, have to just split our earnings from fishing so every so often, but they go on their way, and they wouldn't start trouble because there were guards or people who knew how to fight, and they knew that. Rough and tumble lot here in this place. But two of them turn up. One of them goes over in order to go through the whole rigmarole, and then one of them bites him, and unlike the other guy, it just doesn't stop. And the other Rivazora, his buddy, turns immediately makes a sprint for someone else. You have to put the poor geezers down, you know. But by that point, a good third of the village just infected. It's only gotten worse since.
Well, we are here to help and where we can. We're gonna go over and get some of the things that Dr. Wendell might need in order to help get people patched up in the morning, but it's late right now, so.
Yeah. I appreciate that. It would be nice to have a bit of a kip every now and again, yeah. Just be careful, right? Like I know we've met like 10 minutes ago, but I've seen a lot of people going and coming and going, and it's hard to put into words this experience. It's just harrowing, I think, because me and Trev, we're the only able-bodied fishermen at the moment. We've been pulling double shifts in order to make sure that there's some food coming in, and Guy down the road, he's the only available guard at the moment who isn't sick. We're just thankful that no one's really bothered to try and take. I mean, who would take it? Like, most people are too scared to leave their houses, and all we do is get fish and maybe some wood. There's not really much value here. It's a bother, I guess, for any smart group of bandits. But you know, he just kind of shrugs a bit more. Like, it's clear that he's not handling it particularly well. There's a quiet resignation to his sadness, and it's just, he just kind of like is asking you quite politely to be careful, whatever you do. But as he says that, he just kind of takes in a deep breath, like takes his beanie in one hand and says, "So, is there anything that you guys might need of me or Trev or Guy?"
Just a place to sleep for the night would be useful.
Oh, Grashter over there will help you with that. He's got a couple rooms, but you know, it's not palatial by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a roof.
That's all we need.
Max just blinks at that. Like, oh yeah, that thing I don't care about.
Nice when it's not, or when it's raining, at least.
Yeah.
Renji, in his adventures so far, has so far gotten to the point where it's like, if there is luxury to be had, then yes. But he's spent too much energy on grouching about it, and he has figured out it's no use. Just bottle it up, and next time he's in Castletown, he's just going to go for a nice, comfy, soft bed.
The things that Kai would like to do is, especially since so many people are sick and it is kind of getting fast, he wants to talk to Dr. March a little bit to the side to see, all right, so I understand that there's a lot of stuff that kind of goes into making this medicine. What do you need? And get a list, and then he'd like to talk to the party on if they have a means to get a message to Castletown that might be able to help. And if they can't do it because he doesn't know about the sending stones, he's going to go see if there's a postman in town because they're good at everything they do.
March just kind of nods a bit and says, well, standard protocol when it comes to parasites would be to provide a local condition that they cannot thrive in, as well as medicine that strictly counters biological aspects like bacteria, at least for staunching the flow of this. He kind of thinks a moment and says, if there is a way to get a message to Castletown, then I could at the very least make a request for several prescriptions of a specific medication that might help slow things down. And of course, explaining that it is a kingdom potentially threatening situation. It might help pick up their heels. Otherwise, we have to provide an environment that the Goma cannot possibly thrive in. Though I can't tell whether or not that requires an abundance of cold or an abundance of warmth. That will have to come from Windle, I think.
Right.
But yes, that's the best I can offer at the moment. My supplies at the moment for such a thing of this scale are rather meager.
Well, we can get started on trying to find something to help cure it. If you can think of anything that might help that we could probably find down there in the woods, give us something to look for, that'd be great. Sleep on it though, since we're leaving in the morning. And then he'd turn to the party. You guys got a way to get a message to Castletown relatively quickly, or to the castle, try to get help for ingredients for these people?
Rex looks at Brandy because I believe he would last had the healing zone, the sending zone. Sorry.
Yes, I do have that.
Yeah.
I can try and hail Hikan.
Hold on. I actually have a list of things that Hikan does in the middle of the day.
There.
There it is. And we said it's evening, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he's probably at home at the moment.
Okay. So, with that, it's specifically to try and get supplies to the settlement.
Or to the research stations. That way they
Or
can
to
make
the
the stuff
research
there.
station. Okay. Oh man, this is going to be tricky because Mazra is kind of in the middle of the road here.
Yeah.
Okay. I will just hail Hikan. And
Just
go, Hikan, Renji here. You in?
so I don't I know that you use the term walkie-talkie. So my first instinct is that Hikan, who has the sending stone in his pocket, feels the hail and then just patting down his stuff to find it. And then because at this point he's probably making food, just kind of rests it on his shoulder. Puts his ear to it. He's like, yeah, what's up?
It's good to hear you. We're at the Hylia settlement. There's a bit of a problem. Well, say a bit of a problem. There's quite a big problem with Goma infections, and we might need to get some supplies over here. Problem is also Masro village is, as far as we can tell, under the sway of the Sovereign Hands cult. So, I glance over at Dr. Marshall, who's with us,
Hmm.
I believe.
Yes.
Um, just give him the sending stone for the moment and say, you might be better at explaining what it is you exactly need.
He kind of like, because he's never seen a sending stone before. He's like,
Just talk into it.
right. And he takes it and then just kind of like examines it. Say, is there an end I need to speak into? Or, okay.
You got it.
Hello. This is Dr. Marshall.
Oh, hello. My name's Hikan. Um, hold on. I should probably go get a piece of paper for this. And then he would move the head, like the other image would show him pulling the thing away and go, "Hey Maxwell, take this off in like the heat in like 10 minutes," and then goes forward.
Okay.
And yeah, would go forward and
Like
get the list of the objects.
I can imagine like in that cutaway, briefly, like Maxwell comes in off screen and just kind of like does the thing where he's like staring at it. Just just be like, I don't wanna leave the room and do other things. I wanna make sure I'm here when 10 minutes are up to make sure it's done. But yeah. Dr. Marshall, who's bewildered by the experience of the sending stone, is just kind of says, right. Well, I'm going to need the following things in this quantity, and he goes through a list of different, very complicated sounding medicines, like going by their scientific name, sort of thing. And then, but if stopped to ask for more details, he will provide like a common name for it, and he will handily explain that like more in somewhat more detail the situation with Mazro Village, which is that yeah, it's under the sway of the cult. It's not immediately hostile to outsiders, and they're not gonna stop and search all materials that come through. But he would advise, if just in case, because it's good to hear that he trusts them as far as he can throw them, which is not far at all. That if the courier on the way is able to take any extra coin or requires any extra coin to do this, he will happily reimburse you. But says go through Green Hills and then cut around Mazro if possible. But yeah, he provides you with a very lengthy list of things that are needed, and explains that that is he would consider it a medical emergency, considering what he is seeing in the Hylia settlement, especially if one of the two main sources of fish, or one of the three main sources of fish in Hyrule, is currently experiencing like a pandemic. It's not like the it's not the best of situations right now.
Um, Awesome. Yeah, Hikan will. Most of you have seen Hikan's handwriting, so you know that it's horribly misspelled, but everything is technically phonetically correct, or maybe a little bit mixed up. And
Hikon
then
just writes in code. It's fine.
Yeah.
when the sending stone's given back to Renji, it'd kind of be a. So should I go find Impa, or who do I ask this from?
Impa's a good start.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is.
There's
There was
probably
a
like
Lord
a
of Medicine,
minister.
right?
Sorry?
Yeah. There was a Lord of Medicine, right?
Yeah, I
I
believe
believe so.
so.
I'm just going through to see if I can find them now.
I don't have those notes.
Agriculture, populace and civics, law, faith, arcane, engineering, education, labor, defense, commerce. It may either. Oh,
I mean, worst comes to worst, I know that magic can do it, and faith magic heals people, so I would probably go to the Lord of the Faith if no one else came to mind.
yeah. If Lord Das is willing to commit a couple of clerics, that would be a good idea. But at the moment, there isn't really a dedicated head of medicine, so to speak. Milrose dabbles in it from what might be known. So maybe Milrose would be a good idea to go to, but for like something of this scale, it unfortunately means you'd have to deal with Lord Farnsworth, which
That was the
is
one who basically turns in IDs that are not his, right? It just
yeah,
goes, okay.
yeah.
Oh dear.
Okay, him last. I'll head up Milrose, go to the castle, then address Farnsworth. Got it.
Yeah, that might be the best step-by-step plan.
Yeah. If anything, Milrose will have enough Gaul to try and try and do something, saying like, well, it's a supply thing. Clearly, it's a commerce issue. I need to assess the funds in inverted quotes. Um, but yeah, awesome. So with that sorted, is there anything else you guys need to do for the evening?
Sidon will offer the good doctor his decanter of endless water. As having an endless supply of clean, fresh water will probably be quite useful.
Oh. You got Marshall is he's kind of taken aback because it's like he's gotten to play with one magic item at the moment and now he's being offered another one and it's just like
Another one.
I would like it back once things are resolved.
Oh, of course, yes. Would be happy to. If somehow if it's only on loan, then it makes it easier. But yes, if you're willing to offer, I'd be happy.
Okay, yeah. I will give him a short guide on how it activates and when not to say the word geyser.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, he's thankful for the guide. But yeah, he after a moment, after some time, is there before I continue on, I suppose, is there anything else anybody needs to do before people like part ways and go to bed and stuff?
I don't really have a thing. I just need to rest because it's late.
Yeah. Okay. So, you all depart to the rooms. They are individual rooms, mainly because the actual inn itself doesn't have any what's the word, boarding, like communal boarding rooms or anything like that. They don't cost much, especially if it's only for the night. But you all head to your rooms and you all tuck into bed and have a short but needed rest.
I don't want a long rest.
Well, yeah,
Well,
it counts as a long rest.
Okay.
But you're only sleeping for 4 hours.
It smells back.
Okay. But yeah, as you sleep, Zayden. you find yourself as you snooze and as your eyes close, they open again into a familiar monochromatic forest. It is deathly quiet. Even your footsteps seem muffled. But as you kind of peer around, standing next to a tree is a familiar figure, an old Hylian man with frazzled brown hair and beard, in a brown cloak with a gnarled staff. He's kind of just looking away from you at the moment.
Zidon will walk up beside him.
Okay. He doesn't appear to be looking at anything in particular. But as you kind of walk up beside him, he doesn't like jump or anything. He kind of immediately is aware that you're there. Then again, judging by the previous times that he's done this with the rest of your companions, you can only gather that, you know, this is the way he just makes his phone calls. He says, so, how is it that you are feeling this time?
About the same as usual.
Slowly nods. Considering where you and your companions are headed to?
Long enough. Nothing really changes anymore.
And he kind of like, there's a brief moment where he kind of tucks that away in the back of his mind. His neutral expression drops a little to the briefest of frowns. He says, you have wandered the surface world for a long time. Longer than most who stand and breathe and walk and run and see and hear today. I am curious, however. Do you carry any pains? Do you carry regrets? Is the long tapestry of your life stained in any way?
Of course it is. But that's life.
And he nods again. Says, and if an opportunity comes to take back what may have been lost at the cost of what you have now, would you take it? And as he says that, you like glance forward and you can see something saddeningly familiar just beyond the tree line in a small clearing about 50 feet away. You recognize the area that you're in. And it's what this man is looking at. And as you turn back to him, he's kind of looking at you sadly.
Biden will flinch a bit as he looks over there and say, I can't say I wouldn't, but most deals of this nature are usually bad for all involved. Well, I suppose all but one.
He nods a bit, says, see, in many instances, we find ourselves reminiscing on the past, trapped in this nostalgia of a time that in some cases we thought was better, and perhaps it was true that it was better at those times. But to reclaim that lost feeling, that lost pain, often means sacrificing what happiness you have acquired now. And in time, regret would take its place, as you realize that you cannot live without it, at least as from what I have observed in certain cases. I cannot fault you on your choice here. I do not know what this future holds. You are, of course, only mortal.
Aren't
But
you?
he doesn't answer that.
Darn it.
I'll stare at his face. Can I see anything on him?
You see
Inside
wrinkles. You see many
him.
wrinkles. You can insight check him.
Only a 15.
Yeah, it's weird how this man's wistful sadness seems implacable all the same. It's
I tried.
It's he simply says, "Of course, you are correct in that deals of that nature are not always going to end well for everyone involved, and the scope of that it's never going to be just between you and the deal maker. After all, your life, your tapestry, holds the threads and imagery of many, many, many individuals upon it, especially one as long as yours. And, of course, such deals, especially when simplified, are often too sweet to truly be what they represent, no?"
Yeah. That's how I view it.
There is a consistency to you, Zaiden Shari. There is a consistency that is grounding for the rest of your younger, more wild companions. They need you. And I believe, in certain ways, there is a part of you that knows that. But as you venture into the unknown, I simply ask of you, be careful.
By the way, you've been around us often enough. What should we call you?
You may call me what you like. I would prefer...
Okay, then what you like.
I would be hopeful at one point that you might call me friend. But I have no control over that. My role with this, in my meager attempts to try and contact you, is... it is simply something I feel must be done. But I have no control over your path. I have no control over your destinies. The best I can do is occasionally offer a nudge in what I may believe to be the right direction. And as he says that, the color rapidly returns to the forest that you're in. The sounds of the forest begin to enter your ears again, and as you turn to look back at the back at the clearing, there is a brief sound of laughter, familiar voices. You blink, and you are awake. Not with a start, truthfully, but you are awake, having had a full night's rest.
Ah, excellent.
Pardon?
Excellent.
Ooh, you're getting in and out there, my friend.
Oh, that's not good.
Ah.
Hello? Can you
Hello.
hear me?
Yeah, you're back now. Craig is disconnected though.
Oh.
Dear.
All right.
Craig?
How long ago did he disconnect? About a minute ago. It's fine. Let's see. Let's try and get him back in real quick before we continue on. So I'll just disconnect Craig here, and then Craig, comma, record general.
Now recording.
There we go.
He's back.
He's
Back
back.
again. Craig is back. Tell a
Yeah.
friend.
Hey, Adelaide. Craig's back.
Yay!
Yeah.
Both for Craig being back and for me being called friend.
But yes. So, what were you saying, Sidon? Sorry.
Said excellent.
Excellent. Good.
Yeah. The rest of you wake up in relatively good health.
Long rest.
Yeah, you gain the benefit of a long rest. It is still dark outside, as is the unfortunate side effect of being only sleeping for such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
But at the very least, you are fully rested. There. Anything you fellows do on the morning that you wake up?
Find some breakfast, I suppose.
I think it's just do the basic morning stuff and go out and find a queen to beat up.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Breakfast is brief, and very bare bones by comparison of other places that you have been to. But then, considering circumstances, that is to be expected in certain ways. It's mostly meat and bread and cheese, with a cup of water. After scarfing that down, and thanking the innkeeper for his time, and having done other morning preparations that you have gone through, you make your way outside and head south along the shoreline. While it might still have been kind of dark when you left, by the time you get there, it is early morning light. And what greets you at the south of at the southern end of Lake Hylia is a near impenetrable wall of trees. Just this thick, mighty forest that extends in all directions that you can view.
So we went from Goron City's laminated book of dreams to Lost Woods' impenetrable wall of trees.
Yeah.
Okay.
We hear music.
You do, naturally. It's
Start doing a little jig as we're walking.
Yeah, it's a little quiet, but at the very least, you can hear very briefly on the wind what sounds like a flute. playing this joyful, repetitive song. That kind and the sound. It sounds like it's coming from all directions. Another overwhelming feeling that comes before you as you enter the forest is a well, it's a feeling of being watched, but you can't tell whether or not it's by many different eyes or one set of eyes, and it can't. And like the music, comes from all directions.
I perceive something else. Can I get? I wanna see if I can pierce the darkness.
Okay, give me a perception check.
Let's see if I can roll above a 10 today.
Oh my
No,
god, I'm so sorry.
Amazing! Amazing! Wow!
So
Too dark.
too dark.
I went for a 2 on the die to a 1 on the die.
Oh no.
Oh,
Oh, so that's
unbelievable.
an 11.
It's quite believable, actually.
It's yeah, it's too Lost Woodsy in order to really get past any of this. In fact, the thing that kind of takes you aback for the most part as you cross the threshold into the trees is how it feels immediately like the forest is closing in around you. It's weird. So you've been through this something similar of this experience before when you were in the Firevine Forest. Everything kind of changed at the edge of your perception. But while the Firevine Forest felt more or less like a trap that was being shut, this feels like a curious sort of entity that's examining you and playing with you. And that's even just as you kind of walk in. As you do so, Zayden, I assume that you are leading this troop.
Yep.
Go for a survival check for me, please.
Yeah, I shall ask for the guidance of the land. Then
Thanks, will provide help.
I was actually going to ask.
total
can
of
any us
31.
provide help?
31. Okay. Awesome.
I can offer assistance with my +2.
Yes, he has a +6.
Yeah. Okay.
Renji is not an outdoorsy type in the slightest.
As you're wandering through, Zayden, you can perceive like the general different directions that these that the trees are trying to push you in. I would say with your passive insight that there is something about the way that the trees are kind of maneuvering and gesturing, and while all this happens at the edge of your perception, you can still tell where you need to go. The only problem is that the trees are trying to guide you away from something, and this is a weird sensation in that it's concerned for you. It's actively trying to push you away from a potential danger, which has never been much of a case before. The Lost Woods have always kind of had the sort of like guide you in different directions, maybe guide you out of the forest to keep you away from something else it's trying to protect. This is the opposite now. Something is actively looking out for you and your safety. But even still, you managed to
I did think Speak with Plants was going to be more useful than Speak with Beasts today. Do I have to go talking with these trees?
Maybe. But
Maybe they use Marsh code.
God damn it. Oh no. But as you venture further and further in, the feeling of being watched becomes a bit more defined. And I'd like everybody to make for me a perception check.
I mean, I can't roll lower than a 1.
There you
rolled a
go.
9, but still below a 10.
That's fine.
Team.
That's significant improvement.
Natural 20 for 21.
Okay.
There goes my rolls.
This is just not on it today.
That's fine. It's been a journey.
It's Monday in Hyrule, so Max is.
Max is like, damn, it's a lot of trees.
Yeah.
Mhm.
As you venture forward, yeah, Max, you're kind of thrown off by the sheer volume of plant life and trees around you, and how you find yourself kind of maneuvering around this place, and you're following Zaiden's lead for the most part, and I think that's probably where your focus is, just to make sure you don't get lost. The rest of you, however, you notice that there is an entity that seems to be nearby and watching you rather carefully. It's whatever it is. It seems to be small, but not necessarily like it's a small-sized creature, and it seems to be darting from tree to tree as it just follows you from a safe distance, but always just out of sight.
I think I will grab my shield.
Do I recognize it?
Give me an insight check. Not necessarily like just from the yeah. Okay.
Can I help with that?
If you want to.
Right.
18.
Okay, with an 18, like there's I think there's probably a moment in which Renji kind of says, "You've been here before. What do you think it might be?" And you kind of like you stop a moment and you think, and then you recognize that this particular little troublemaker has been an ever-present factor of the Lost Woods for a very long time, and you've only met him a couple of times, but you know that he's ultimately harmless, if a bit annoying at the worst of days. And this would be an entity that isn't a Kokiri. This would be an entity known as the Skull Kid.
Is he wearing a mask?
He is not wearing a mask.
Okay. Because you've got to tell me if he's wearing a mask.
You're legally obligated to tell me if Skull Kid is wearing a mask.
And which mask it is? Is it the skull mask or is it the other one?
He hasn't gotten. Link hasn't been born yet, even. So he hasn't gotten the skull mask just yet.
Link hasn't been born yet, but he also died a while ago.
Yeah.
For reference, just as we're going through the forest, Kai would like to bring up the rear and is holding onto his shield.
Okay.
Zaiden will glance over to Skull Kid, will wave at him, and will reach into a pocket and find a piece of candy to throw his way.
Make a persuasion check.
3 go. 12.
There's a pause as the entity you assume to be Skull Kid is stops in its tracks. They kind of just peer, like they remain out of sight for the moment, and then after a brief amount of time, they just kind of, you can see like the wicker hat and the orange orbs that make up their eyes on this kind of charcoal black figure, and he just kind of looks out and looks at you, and then you can see like the perfect circles that are his eyes kind of angle a bit as if the eyebrows, and he looks cross. He says, "Go away."
Everyone hears this?
Yeah.
Okay. I think Renji will take one step closer, stop and say, "It's all right. We don't mean you any harm. We need to find something here in the woods. Can you help us?"
Max is just barely stopped by Renji from saying no. So he just kind of squints.
And like,
I want to convince him to help us.
give me another persuasion check. This time with disadvantage.
Oh,
I would like to help
It's a
Oh,
regular
okay.
persuasion check.
by saying, we're just here to look for something that's big and mean and scary and has probably been hurting a lot of people.
It's a 15. I rolled a 2. I rolled another 2.
But you do get
help.
yeah.
Oh.
You got help from Kai, so that would have been the 29.
That would have been oh, thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
That's okay.
Finally, a 16
Yeah.
plus 13.
Okay. So the reason why you had to roll disadvantage was because Skull Kid is somewhat familiar with Zayden. Not familiar with any of you, and all of you, at least as far as Skull Kid is concerned, are adults.
Oh, right.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah. So he kind of like, however, with the 29, with the convincing that you've provided, he kind of like tromps out. He's got his arms folded, and his shoulders hunched and everything, and just kind of like comes out into the underbrush for a moment, and like he examines the four unfamiliar faces, and then looks back at Zayden and says, "You left. Why'd you go?"
Felt the need to explore the world some.
But you were gone for so long.
Oh, did you miss me?
No. And just kind of huffs and hunches down more.
Don't think we need to roll an insight to know he's lying.
Yeah. But yeah. After a brief pause, he
Max would be less subtle than everyone else and just say, "So why did you ask?"
kind of looks up at you, squints. He after a moment he looks to all of you, and he primarily is addressing Zayden because at least he's met Zayden once or twice before, and says, "Why are you back?"
Do you know of the Goma?
The
little eyeball things.
Oh, yeah. I've seen the Goma. I've seen Goma. Yeah. Kind of just like, as he thinks on it, he just kind of drops down to the ground in a cross-leg pose, arms still folded, as he just kind of mulls it over, and says, Not meant to mess with the Goma. There are, and I remember seeing a lot of them actually. And he kind of like he unfolds his arms briefly to point in a direction, but as he does it, he says, "That way," and when he says "that way," his arm moves further to the left, and then he brings his arm down, and you can probably tell, like the rest of you is like, "That's a very unhelpful direction," and Zayden, you're like, makes sense, they're probably being moved about.
I see. Well, we'll probably go speak with the old man first.
Oh, but that's no fun. Old man's boring.
Is the way of being old. I should know.
It's like playing to Skull Kid's sympathies, and it's like, you're not, and he just like he's stopping and starting sentences as he's trying to think of other things. He eventually gets to the point where he's like, okay, old man, last time I spoke to old man, he said that no one's meant to go into the village. So if you want to speak to old man, you have to go around the back.
Oh, that's unusual.
He said it's for their protection. Because of the eyeball thingies, the goma, as you said.
We'll go around the back then.
Okay. Want me to come with?
Certainly.
Yay! And he just kind of hops up again, and begins kind of like wandering. Like he follows along with each and every one, like with all of you as Zaid. I imagine you can like carry on with the group. He peppers you with a lot of questions. Often inane and repeating, as one would expect from a child. But they are, like, it's clear, even with, like, possibly lowest passive insight, it's clear that they don't come from a source of malice. He's just very curious. And he continues his mistrusting of you being adults, and he says as much on several occasions, but at the very least he's not hostile.
Max is clearly getting very annoyed.
Yeah. I imagine, like, I had a feeling like Skull Kid is going to be the antithesis to Max for quite.
The air might start to crackle after a while.
That only manages to prompt more questions.
Then the air is going to crackle more.
It's a repeating.
think
And we'll
so,
ask
yeah.
Skull Kid. So
Yeah.
have you practiced any new songs lately?
Only a couple. But they're not as good as Saria's song. Saria's song's nice.
Why don't you demonstrate for us what you've practiced?
Okay. And he pulls out a flute. You're wondering that if this is meant to be the source of the music that you're hearing in all directions, how exactly it's going on. But then Lost Woods, hard to explain.
The music you're hearing now is what he played 2 days ago. Unfortunately, the music itself also gets lost in the woods.
I really like that as an idea. I'm gonna let you have inspiration on that. That's a really cool idea. Like
God.
If I make a joke, I get pun damage.
well, that's because you make
That's
puns.
because it's because you're making puns.
It's a joke still. It's
I know.
it's
yeah.
fine.
They're also not adding to the world.
It's like Smoke did.
Oh dear. But yes, he begins playing a tune, which is it has the same sort of beat to it, but is still distinct in its own way. It's fairly pleasant, and he continues playing it as you walk on. And as you walk on, I would like everybody to make an intelligence saving throw, please.
Is this a charm effect?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't make those very good.
That's a 17.
Okay.
11.
59.
All right.
I
So-
knew when we were going into the Lost Woods, I was going to do something with. There was going to be something with charm effects.
That's fine.
Damn it, I'm supposed to make other things make saving throws, not make it myself.
Oh yeah.
So, as I should probably do one for Mara as well. Good idea. And one for Skull Kid.
Yes, please
Go
make him
Kid
do one.
has to make one. Okay.
Please make him do one and make him fail. That'd be funny.
I can't force the dice, I'm afraid.
I am asking the dice.
You
You made me fail.
I'll give him a beat if he chooses to.
So as you continue walking on, something occurs to you only briefly. The music that you're hearing from Skull Kid is becoming distorted. And your sense of balance is being thrown off. Each and every one of you manage to catch yourself before you fall over. And you close your eyes in order to try and center yourself from this wave of vertigo that is just kind of pulsing through you all. But as you open your eyes again, you find that you are no longer in the Lost Woods. There is a sense of panic and guilt that has entered your system as you see around you the stonework and wooden buildings of the Hyrule Castle town slums. And surrounding you are a collection of Hylian Guard knights, led by one Chaplain Larson Graves. And they look very displeased. And that is where we will end the session for tonight. Thank you,
I didn't do it.
Thank you, everybody, so much for tagging along with this episode of Hyrule Chronicles, episode 90, as we enter into the Lost Woods and face a new threat. I have been the GM Articulate T, and with me, as always, I have had Renji Vox being played by the Netherlad.
We've been bamboozled.
I have Kai Kuana being played by Alvarez.
I just wanted to dance.
I have had Zaiden Shari being played by Robopart.
Damn it, I took a left at the teleport to Hyrule Castle tree.
And I have had Max being played by Keistrith.
I am innocent and no one can claim any different. I don't know what I did, but I didn't do it.
And we will see you guys next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.